So today we're going to talk a little bit about chronic pain and sex. So I have done a video about being deaf and having sex, talking about how to communicate, mostly if you're like in a deaf hearing relationship. Just to make sure there's no misunderstandings and all of that. I do have a link over here if you want to go check that out. I also have a published chapter in Hannah Witten's Doing It. The US version came out a couple of weeks ago. I have a copy, but I don't know where it is, so I'll just have like a picture over here so you can see the book cover of it. But hey, if you want, there's a book if you want to go read that. I'm only in a chapter, but still, it's pretty awesome. So thank you, Hannah, for allowing me to be a part of that. But today we're just gonna talk about chronic pain and having sex. For me, that's where there's a little more complication. But today we're just gonna talk about having chronic pain and having sex. For me, that is where having sex tends to be a little bit of a struggle because, well, chronic pain is just not fun at all. So if you didn't know, I've been dealing with chronic pain since I was at least 11 or 12. I was in middle school. So what happened was we had this thing like every week, once a week or twice a week, something like that. Our class and a couple other classes, our homeroom classes, really, we'd all get together and we'd like play games or whatever. It was whatever. But I actually ended up twisting a muscle in my neck very severely, to the point that my head literally looked like this. Or maybe it was on this side, I don't really remember, but it was tilted. And it was like that for so long, and I had to go to the chiropractor for that for a little while. And ever since then, I've just been dealing with a lot of pain. I have a load of pain in my back, and my shoulders and my back, and I have TMD. A lot of people also know that as TNJ, but apparently that's just a joint, and the actual disorder is TMD, because J, joint, D, disorder. And in case you don't really know what the whole TMD thing is about, it's basically when your jaw locks up, think of lockjaw, and I have trouble talking a lot. Like if I'm talking a lot, like for videos, my jaw will hurt and it hurts to open. When I'm eating, my jaw can get stuck and it cracks a lot. My jaw cracks. I've scared friends in person because I don't even know if you'll be able to hear it, but for the record, right now, if these sounds freak you out, if bones cracking freak you out, fast forward for like the next couple of seconds, but I don't know if you can hear that, but that's a more mild cracking, but there are times when it won't move at all, and so I probably shouldn't be doing this, but occasionally I might rip it open and I'm like really cracking it, and then it just feels like a rip. Really? No, don't do that. I'm pretty sure that makes it worse. Sometimes my rib cage is it hurts. Like everything hurts, and it gets to the point where it's just, I can't get out of bed. Sometimes I can't get out of bed. I don't want to move from the couch. I can't do anything. It just hurts. So now that life story of chronic pain is out of the way, let's put sex into the equation. So I've been having sex for 4 years now, since I was 23 years old. And I've had 2 partners, my ex and my current partner. There are things now that I can do easier than before, but still. So, like, for example, one of the things that I absolutely hate doing is being on top. With my boyfriend now, it's easier because he's smaller than me, but getting on top and like doing part of the work, but mostly just being on top, it does something to the bones and the muscles, and it hurts so badly. And also my legs cannot be in that position for a long amount of time, because what then just happens is my legs get tired, my thighs get tired, and then something hurts, not just gets tired, it hurts, and then it shoots up to the rest of my body, and nothing says mood killer like going ow, 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 and like getting ready to fall over and sob. Major mood killer. With my boyfriend now, it is easier because, like I said, he's smaller, so, but still, like, I can't do it for that long. Like, it's just easier to be on the back. It is. Another concern is, well, when you have TMD, just imagine, like, when you're trying to just eat something like a normal human being, right? And you can't keep your mouth open long enough just to, put a fork in your mouth, chew, and then go on about your day. And you don't even have to open your mouth very very much, right, to eat unless you're just really into your food, I guess. I'm someone who cannot go down on people because my TMD is just that bad, or it can get that bad. Now, I actually have other reasons why I don't feel comfortable doing so, but that's a different video. And that is an activity that, you know, it's your mouth stays open for a little bit longer, and my jaw just has none of that. And I remember when the whole, gosh, how do you pronounce his name? DJ Khaled? I don't know, I'm probably getting it wrong, but everybody got so mad because he said that he wasn't going to go down on his wife because, you know, he thinks he's a king and men don't do that or whatever. And Megan Tone just actually made a video about that. And for one, I agree with Megan and everybody else who said that that's just a little, Now, of course, it's one thing when if you don't feel comfortable doing something, you don't feel comfortable doing something. And that's why partners talk it out. So obviously, really, there's no problem in my current relationship because I said we talk about what we're comfortable doing or what we can and can't do, like literally, like physically, and you know, it's great. So a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, you don't go down on your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and it's just like, well, you know, I kind of like not being in pain and crying from the pain and, you know, all of that. I mean, if there's one thing that I can learn to deal with, it's the back pain, like I go lay down or something. Ibuprofen may help, but honestly, when you've dealt with it for so long, it's like such a minimal temporary fix that sometimes it's just not worth it. And I can't swallow pills. Pills make me choke. They scare me. Birth control is the biggest that I can do, and sometimes I still mess that up. You know what? It's weird to think about because I can swallow a Skittles whole, no problem. So, of course, what do you do if you are someone who doesn't have chronic pain and your partner does? And, like, how do you make it easier for them? Well, for one, talk to your partner and find out what makes things easier. So, like, sometimes putting a pillow underneath will help. People recommend putting pillows under the back, you know, for pleasure purposes. But you know what? Sometimes you use that just to make things easier and less painful. You know, always ask if the person is okay. You know, it's the same kind of things you should probably be doing just to make sure that consent is always there. And speaking of which, if your partner is in pain and really just doesn't want to do anything, that's it. Just don't. You'll find another day or maybe a different hour in the day that you'll be able to have sex. Because like I said, sex is not fun if your partner is in pain. Sex is not fun for you if you are in pain. So obviously everyone is different. My experiences differ from, you know, many of my other disabled friends who have chronic pain. Those who have EDS will have a hell of a lot more symptoms than me. You know, it's just, I'm curious to see what that's like for other people. Is that creepy? Does that sound creepy? Does that sound sort of like voyeurism? That's not where I'm trying to go with this. But, you know, I'm all about educating, and there's a lot of people that don't know about disabled people and sex. A lot of people assume that disabled people can't have sex because, well, a lot of people think that disabled people can't do anything or that they shouldn't do anything. I know my friend Andrea Lassell has a video on that. I think she's probably the only person who has a video on that. If you are a disabled person and you feel comfortable sharing your story, you are more than welcome to down in the comments below. And before you go, if you haven't, consider pledging on Patreon. You get monthly perks like music playlists, written pieces that you won't see anywhere else, and pen pals if you go up high enough. Or pen pal letters. And I will see you later. Bye.